Hello, folks. Welcome back into this episode. Sorry for the wait on the weekend. I had a little party over the weekend with family and friends. Sorry for the hold up. I miss you guys so much. So in today's video is gonna be a little different about a cemetery ghost telling, like a story ghost of a haunted cemeteries and stuff like that, and ghost sightings. This one's gonna be a little different. Okay, so see you guys in a bit. A few places in the world have a ghostly a reputation as New England. It's the region that gives Stephen King's and the Gucci bumps. It also has some of the oldest post-colonial settlements in the U.S. Along with them, some of the oldest graveyards. Okay, moving on. St. Louis Cemetery. Locals, visitors, and paranormal investigators believe St. Louis Cemetery, the world's most ghostly haunted famous graveyard in New Orleans, including Voodoo Queen Mary and Louvre, because most of the city's is submerged in water. The dead are buried on top of the ground. Some visitors have heard either screams from inside the tombs, and some been eyewitnesses to the ghosts of animals, including cats and dogs, kind of like spirits, and kind of like animal spirits and human spirits, something like that. Okay, moving on. Take a picture here of a strange orb or ghost make an appearance in your photo. Also, if you go to a cemetery, it's like asking you, if you take a photo of a random grave, it will, like an orb, it will especially appeared in one of your photos. Like, say if you go to a cemetery right now at night, if you take a photo and then you see an orb in one of your photos, something like that, and then it will show up in your photos. But sorry, and then if you go in person, you can't see nothing. But only if you take photos with the flash on in your phone or whatever your camera, you were able to see the orb flying next to you, right in front of your eyes, and you in front of your lens of the camera. Wow. Okay, moving on. Heidi Cemetery in London, and perhaps one of the most activity haunted cemeteries in the UK, with 50,000 graves on site. It's not a surprise why ghosts still roam the spooky spot, and it's underground. Ghost stories about the cemetery includes tales of vampires who some claim drain the blood from dead animals found in the graveyard. And rumors continue to spread about seeing a imp-like creature. Oh damn, it's like a creature. A ghostly bicycle rider and a mysterious man in a top hat. Oh shit, kind of like Ghost Rider. Holy fuck. Okay, moving on. Salem Cemetery. Locals who visit Salem Cemetery in the High Spring have seen the ghost of Lucifer's Fox. Lazarus of Fox, the first mother settings of current township. She has been seen crying to her grave. They've been seeing her crying to her grave. Aww. And at the sight of her murder hounds from how believed to roam and growl their way through the cemetery. Some people believe the ghost dogs exist. Oh yeah, do dogs exist of ghost dogs? They do exist. I hear them a couple times. Okay, moving on. Exit to keep ghosts from escaping. Bachelor Grove Cemetery. Located in the Mullington Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, is rumored to be the scariest haunted cemetery in the Chicago area. Oh shit, I gotta go there. This area was once a dumping ground for Chicago gangsters during the 1920s. For a number of years, witnesses have claimed to see ghosts in a phantom car that disappears along the turnpike near the graveyard. Not even daylight is safe. Violent cries of a small child. They hear smallest cries of a small child there. Holy shit. Okay, moving on. Are often heard in the evening. Oh shit. Gettysburg Cemetery. Phantom figures in both Union and Confederate uniforms still peace at Gettysburg. Battlefield and Cemetery. The site of one of the deadliest battles in American history. A man seen wearing a black hat with a star of outfit tries to converse with the tourists and pose with families for photos. For those who want ultimate haunted experience, stay at the Friendsworth House. Eat where Confederate snipers and during the battleground. And their ghosts still roaming today. Oh, it means that all the soldiers were still of the spirits is still running around right now at this time at the Chicago cemetery. Okay, moving on. A Gothic chapel was built in 1863, with a large Princeton fountain placed in front of the 1875. A commemoration was added to the chapel in 1912. This chapel and cemetery were replaced with two near structures on the property. One being the chapel with receiving vault, and the other being the new cemetery and main office. Both the old and new chapels have filled into dishes over the years, but the cemetery is still maintained, and many entrances still occur in the nearest sections. It is now the final resting place to 1.5 million people. Wow. Excuse me. Okay, moving on. The cemetery is home to two chapels, and it is the most famous in crematory and to protect the people that are still being buried. And massive graveyard. The location has never been disclosed. Over the years, the buildings have fallen into dire and pretty bad shape. To the people continue to bury it in the cemetery. Oh wow. Okay, moving on. Some others will go to any length to make sure that their children are okay. Even if the children are gone, such as she asked, in case with Florence Erin. Ford and her loving mother, even after Florence. Contract yellow fever and died at the age of 10. Aww. 1871. Her mother wanted to make sure that her daughter knew. She was with her even from beyond, way beyond. The grave, especially during thunderstorms, tornadoes, hurricanes, which terrified little Florence in life. Okay, moving on. Instead of burying her daughter in the normal grave at the Nazi cemetery and leaving flowers at it is like anyone else, Mrs. Ford, had a special one of a kind tomb created for Florence behind the handstone. It said of the doors that went open rival. Stairs that and roughly at the same level at the Florence and her grave. Today, there's just a constraint that wall at the base of the steps, but back when Mrs. Ford was alive, there was a window that looked out the child's coffin at the graveyard. As the story goes, every time there was a storm, Mrs. Ford would open the doors and head into the little cellar to be with her daughter. Aww. I can't imagine that making anyone feel any better, but different strokes again, I guess. Okay, moving on. Today the door still opens, but the window was pulled over the print mechanism. It's still pretty freaky too. That I think if you walk down those cracks, climbing steps, even though today Florence is just behind the wall of constraining. If you believe that visiting the little girl's grave comforted her spirit, then pay her a visit and let her know that everything is going to be alright. Oh, kind of like a feeling good, like tell her to feel good about herself, about her spirit. Okay, moving on. The little girl's grave comforted her spirit, then pay her a visit. Oh wait, no, wait. Okay, and maybe give her the 10-day weather forecast in case there are any storms. Oh, so she's afraid of storms. The little girl, she's 10 years old. So I think her fear is the worst of like she doesn't like hurricane storms, something like that. Oh shit. Okay, moving on. Oh, okay, that was the end of the story of the little girl about the cemetery. Mrs. Ford. Well, that's her mom's name. And she came to visit her at the daughter's graveyard in the cemetery. Oh. Okay. Leave me know in the comments below, guys, what you guys think about this episode. Well, Peace.